Eric, I've got good news and bad news for you today.
Today's my last episode?
Nope, you are not getting fired yet. The good news is that PsychSessions, as you know, is 5 years old. You just heard Eric Landrum and me, Garth Neufeld, talking about the 5th anniversary of the PsychSessions podcast. In this episode, we reflect on the past and look into the future with an exciting announcement. We hope you'll stay tuned. And now, a word from our sponsors. The PsychSessions podcast is sponsored by STP. That is the Society for the Teaching of Psychology. That's APA Division 2. You can find them at teachpsych.org. The views or product endorsements expressed do not represent the views, support, or endorsements of STP. PsychSessions is so grateful to have STP as a long-term supporter. Hi folks, PsychLearn from APA is offering a free webinar. Are you teaching statistics or research methods next semester? PsychLearn can help. From the American Psychological Association, PsychLearn is a complete all-digital resource for instructors teaching stats and research methods courses. It drives deeper engagement than traditional printed textbooks, immersing students in multidimensional learning experiences with engaging content for practice and for formative assessment. Structured around applied cognitive science, PsychLearn helps students gain confidence in their understanding of foundational concepts and build towards critical learning outcomes. Join them for a webinar on October 18th at 3 p.m. Eastern to hear how PsychLearn can help students visualize complex statistics and watch for additional informative webinars coming soon. Register today at pl.apa.org/webinar 22. That's pl for psychlearn.apa.org/webinar 22. If you're having trouble keeping your psych students engaged, then Macmillan Learning created Achieve for Psychology just for you. Macmillan Learning knows that student engagement is one of the biggest challenges you are facing, but Achieve for Psychology engages every student because it's about more than just what happens in the classroom. Students need to be engaged before and during and after class. Achieve helps students by offering exclusive digital content created by and for their authors, and a deep video collection with new, in-demand footage, plus all new goal setting and reflection surveys to help students set goals and provide you the means to check in with students. Preview how Achieve engages every student at macmillanlearning.com/PsychSessions. Eric, I've got good news and bad news for you today.
Today's my last episode?
Nope, you are not getting fired yet. The good news is that PsychSessions, as you know, is 5 years old.
All right. Is today kindergarten graduation?
We've actually talked about that, haven't we? About PsychSessions developmentally. But the bad news is that we were 5 years younger when we started this. So that's a lot of time that seems to have flown by very, very quickly.
I'm not so sure time is always linear. It may be 5 years on the calendar, but it may not be 5 years in terms of aging. Some of us age at different rates.
Is that right? Well, it feels like we were a lot younger when we started this, but...
Well, I don't think you've aged a bit. I may have aged quite a bit. For example, we happen to be recording this in Garth's home, and he's done this purposely in such a way that I'm looking at Garth, I'm looking behind his shoulder, and I see a picture of him on his wedding day, and he's not a day older than his wedding day picture, which really is quite irritating. So one of us ages dramatically, the other one doesn't age a bit.
You know what? Funny story.
Well played. Well played, my friend.
Two stories.
In air quotes, my friend, for our listeners who can't see air quotes.
Some folks who some folks who come to my house and have never known me without long hair look at that picture and they go, wait, what? Who's that guy? The other thing that you're going to get a kick out of this. So I'm on sabbatical. So I golf now instead of teach. So I golf once a week, something like that.
Insert golf jokes here, right?
Yeah. So I went, there's a kid behind the counter and I was going to at just a public course here in Seattle. And so he looked up at me. Now it was early morning. I hadn't shaved. And I guess I looked, I don't know, but I had a hat on. And you know what he said to me? He said, "Senior?" He thought I was 65. One of my friends said to me, "You do look kind of old these days." And in all seriousness, yeah, but I don't think 65.
All right, so I'm going to see your story and I'm going to raise it. So I went to Arby's the other day because they've got the meats, and I was there having lunch by myself, a lovely lunch, and I got home and I'm a receipt guy. I keep the receipts even though I paid cash. And for whatever reason, I was looking at the receipt and it was like $9 and something. And I look at the receipt and I see senior citizen discount. And I go, and I don't want you to have to beep this, but I go, what the F? And I go downstairs to Lisa, my wife, and I show the receipt to her. So first off, she has to scramble for her readers because, whatever, we're old, but we're not that old, right? And it takes her a while. He goes, she goes, "Oh, look, you saved money." And I go, "I didn't ask for it. They just gave it to me without asking." And I was perturbed, and I'm still perturbed. I didn't need to save 99 cents. I didn't ask for a senior citizen discount. I didn't want it. I will not go back to that Arby's. There's another Arby's in Boise, Idaho. I will go to that one.
How old was this person behind the till?
Probably 25, 26.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I didn't even notice it.
At least mine was, I think, when I was 17 years old, I maybe didn't know the difference between, 42 and 65.
Yeah, and I hate giving you a compliment, but to your credit, Garth, you kind of looked scraggly. You rolled out of bed, you were unshaven, you weren't your normal looking self.
Yeah.
I went into Arby's as my normal looking self.
Yeah.
And I was perceived as a senior citizen.
Okay.
And you've got an explanation for yours. Yeah. I do not.
Yeah. Yeah. I was, I didn't know what to feel after that.
Okay. But on a serious side, there is something to feel there, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, and Lisa was like, "Look, you saved money." And I was like, "No, I didn't want to save money."
They can't see the gestures, Eric, that you're doing.
I'm sorry, what gestures? I dropped my Diet Mountain Dew. What gestures are you referring to?
Nothing. Yeah. All right. Well, that is our 5th year anniversary opening for the Psych Sessions
Welcome
podcast.
to Psych Sessions, conversations about teaching and stuff.
Yeah, we will emphasize the and stuff today, so thanks for sticking with us. Eric, what are we going to talk about? Have we done one of these anniversary episodes every year?
No, we have not. We did one after year 1. We did kind of a live episode August 27th, 2020. Was that a celebration of 250? I can't remember. Or 200,
100,
the 100th
of the flagship
episode,
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
I remember that date because the next day I had a pulmonary embolism and ended up in the hospital, which is why I remember that date particular. But
wait, we did that one online, virtually, right?
Yeah, we did. It was great.
We had a bunch of friends show up, about 50 people.
50, yeah, it was awesome. It was awesome.
That's worth doing again. We should probably do that again.
Yeah, but not the pulmonary embolism. Just the online or the live episode.
Yeah. We're not ready for you to go.
Not the PE. Well, it depends on who you talk to. I mean, the Arby's fellow might think I'm ready to go right now. It kind of depends. Yeah.
I noticed I've never seen this before. You've come prepared with notes today, which I'm sure we'll get into. But
well,
sometimes
Garth,
we joke about that.
I thought it was time for your 5-year review. So I thought it was time to do this, and what better way to do it than on the air, so to speak, and so to document it so that we could have it for our listening public. So, but we don't have to get to it yet.
No, not at all. This year, if we kind of just think about these 5 years, it's weird that half of our lifespan as an organization has been during a pandemic.
Yeah, that's a really good thing to think about and to talk about. First off, it has been, maybe to cut to the chase, it's been an honor and a privilege to serve our teachers of psychology and to all of our listeners. And I am particularly proud of how we were able to persevere in the through the pandemic. Like everyone else, we pivoted. And we actually, with the help of many people, particularly Marianne Lloyd, we pivoted and we actually upped the amount of programming we offered, PsychSessions and Ask PsychSessions during the pandemic. And we provided more support, more resources during the pandemic. And I'm really proud of what we did then. And I know that made more work for you, more work for me, more for Marianne and for others, the people that she interviewed, the experts that she reached out to. And so it really gave, in a weird way, the pandemic gave podcasting and ourselves a chance to shine.
Yeah, I see the same thing with virtual programming for conferences and things like that. We just, maybe some people were doing a little bit of that, and we were doing podcasting before that, but you never know until something like that happens, what resources are going to be or avenues are going to be really helpful. And turns out podcasting was one of those. It helped, I think, people feel connected. We could talk about important issues. You and I, we set out to do this podcast only ever in person. And we were really serious about that. And, you know, I don't hate it that the pandemic kind of made us think twice about how can we offer this using programs like Zoom or Zencastr or whatever.
Yeah, I think we started with a kind of a baked-in bias that in-person, face-to-face would get us better sound quality. And so that was kind of the bias that we started with. And so we were going to conventions and actually within that first year help with the Society for the Teaching of Psychology, that's STP. We got to visit Bill McKeechee and Charles Brewer.
Yeah.
And so that was that face-to-face piece of it. And so that was an important part of that, you know, that our belief of that audio sound quality. And then necessity is the mother of invention. So the pandemic hits and all of a sudden face-to-face is not a viable option. Zoom and Zencastr and other modalities that other people record with, it just made good sense. And it's probably better to get an interview with someone over electronic means than to not get an interview at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I will say there's nothing that replaces being in the room with a person face to face.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think most of our college professor colleagues would agree with that. Although I think some people, in terms of teaching, they've found that they have come to enjoy online teaching. And I've got a couple of colleagues at Boise State who had never taught online, thought they would hate it and have come to love it and enjoy it because teaching from home has given them more flexibility in their life. They still work just as hard or harder, but now working from home just gives them more flexibility in their day-to-day lives.
Yep. Yeah. You know, I think too about those early interviews with McKeechee and Brewer, those would not have worked online, likely.
No, where they were in their lives. And, you know, they were both in nursing homes. Mm-hmm. They were both in assisted living, not without a great deal of assistance from someone there with them. I don't think it would have gone well over Zoom.
Right. And so that has its unique sort of considerations. I am thinking about what other things we've done would not be conducive to kind of the online or the virtual. And one of the things that comes to mind for me is over the years, we've a little more consistently now that we're back in person, but recording live from places like events like ACT, the Annual Conference on Teaching. Last year, we did some recording at WPA, Western Psychological Association. That, again, is one of those things that you've got to be in person to catch it. And what a cool thing that I was at EPA this last year. Claude Steele is giving a talk, and that can be recorded and that can be given to folks. Now that's not a great example because he beamed in virtually, but I'm thinking about some of those folks, right? And
actually, to be honest with you, I was there as well and hoping to hear him, live. And I think the audience was expecting him live, and he actually did appear via Zoom.
And we didn't know that.
No, and they were very wise. Even though I was disappointed, they were very wise probably to say that he wasn't going to be there. But I think that's one of the values of what PsychSessions can do, is that when given the opportunity, we can capture, these great speakers that these conferences bring in, and we can capture them and make them available in perpetuity. People who go to conferences are very privileged. Their institutions have the financial backing and structure to pay for travel, to pay for lodging, to pay for per diem, which I have appreciated and I've been privileged to receive. But, there's 4,000 colleges and universities in the United States. There's 1,200 departments of psychology in the United States. When I go to a conference, I might see 200 different, departments represented, which means about 1,000 departments aren't sending people, or people aren't interested in going, or whatever. So if people can't go or won't go or aren't going, it'd be nice to be able to share the wealth, the intellectual property wealth, for free with the people who aren't going, especially junior colleagues, people new in the profession, postdocs, graduate students. It's a generous gift when conferences allow us to be able to share their expertise with others.
It reminds me of this article that came out of the Introductory Psychology Initiative, and actually the survey work that was done through that initiative and then was published by Richmond et al. And we learned that out of nearly 1,000 instructors who were surveyed, that less than 50% ever had a course in teaching. But turns out they got professional development. Once they were in academia, they got some professional development in teaching. They did find, many of them found that support along the way. And so there is a need for it. PsychSessions can be another resource where people can kind of plug in and get those vital skills. I was talking to somebody yesterday and they just couldn't fathom that faculty members who are teaching college students have no formal training in teaching. It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, I think people who grew up in the K-12 system are so accustomed to they're trained as professional teachers and they have continuing education unit, responsibilities every year, almost like licensure, that to think that you can become a college professor and you actually don't have to have a license to teach or have to have been taught to teach, it is kind of remarkable. So can I switch gears a little bit? Or are you on a roll?
No, I'm not.
So here, Garth, here's what I want to ask you. How has being involved in PsychSessions in the past 5 years changed your life?
Oh, that's a really interesting question. I think it has. First off, it has been another step on a trajectory. So I think getting involved in the Society for the Teaching of Psychology years ago and getting involved with kind of APA initiatives, that put me on a path of kind of having even closer national colleagues than colleagues at my own institution, and having this community. And PsychSessions has given me the opportunity to really connect with new people. I love doing cold interviews with folks I don't know. I think that it's just a lot of fun to get to know somebody in that hour. And so now I feel like I have friends all over the country, people that I've interviewed. You and I have done probably each 75 different interviews. Yeah. We've sat down with people for, collectively like hundreds of hours of just mining people. So I don't know that, what I can point to exactly and tell you exactly how it's changed my life. But I will say it's increased my social circle, which has been just total fun. It's made work, teaching fun, more fun. It has given me a connection. When, like, any city I'm in, I pretty much know somebody there. Somebody is showing up that I've met at a different conference. What was a recent one? MPA. There wasn't a ton of people last year in Chicago at MPA that I recognized, but I looked through the list and I saw Guy Boyson was coming in. And so Guy and I hung out, and, those are just real special gifts as kind of a byproduct of the PsychSessions podcast. But I think also it's given me opportunities to problem solve and figure out how to do this better. You and I are in the back, and we have different passions related to the podcast, but I have this sound and music background, and I continue to grow in it, and it's just life-giving to be able to do that in the background. So, I think I'm a happier person because I get to do this stuff. I think that there's just so much upside to this, and it's a lot of work too. So I don't know. I ask my wife about PsychSessions, and she'd probably say, like, Garth's in that office a lot doing, and I hear Eric's voice over the speakers a lot.
Well, I will apologize to Danielle the first time I get the chance to. Do you have any, and I probably should have given you some warning, and I apologize. Do you have any memorable episodes? I'm not going to ask you for best or worst, because that's kind of a loaded question to ask. Do you have any that pop for you as, oh my gosh, I wasn't expecting that, or oh my gosh, this one made me cry, or this one was special?
Do you know how bad my memory is?
No, how bad?
Well, it's so bad. It sounded like you're setting me up for one of those.
Yeah, exactly.
Sometimes I'm looking through a list of somebody who's going to be up at an upcoming conference.
And you've forgotten you've already interviewed them?
I've already interviewed them. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And it's not like, no, it wasn't forgettable. It's just that my mind, there's probably something wrong with my brain.
You've already interviewed Sue France. You've already interviewed Jane Hallinan. All right. So pick somebody else.
Yeah. Over and over. It's just like 13th interview with Sue France.
You've already interviewed Dave Myers.
Yeah.
Pick somebody different.
Yeah. One of the things I love, and this happened with Lindsay Maslin, and this just happened with Jordan Waggy. I love seeing somebody I don't know give a talk, and then tapping them on the shoulder right afterwards and saying, whatever you've got, whatever you were talking about, I want to talk about it with you. There's something very interesting about that. So Jordan and I we just laughed the whole time. It was just released on PsychSessions a few weeks ago, but she's doing fascinating things, and she's, all of our guests are unbelievable, but they all have different strengths in an interview, and her strength is fun. And it's one of the things that she brings to her work and her students and brought to that interview as well.
Let me just second that. You are actually very good at that with both Lindsay and Jordan, and with a few others when you've been at a conference and you look at people, like you said, you look at people who are speaking there, you have some ideas who you want to catch up with, but more than twice you have done that, where I know you've told me about, I've just heard this person give a talk who I'd never heard of before.
Yeah.
And hey, I got them to sit down and interview with me.
I mean, okay, so now I'm going down this road a little bit more. Like cold calling folks or cold emailing is like one of my favorite things to do. That's the way I got Albert Bandura to come on the podcast, right? It was, it's Stephen Brookfield, whose episode people really loved. I looked at the numbers the other day.
I got to tell you, his is in the top 10 for sure in terms of downloads. Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's the third most popular episode ever. Stephen Brookfield.
Yeah. And unbelievably gracious guy, and not in the psychology world.
Right.
But it was very timely. It was right after George Floyd, and he had been doing a career's worth of work about teaching and inclusivity and classroom practices and related to those things. And I got to just mine him for information, and I couldn't believe he said yes. You know, it's like some of these big authors. Sometimes it's crickets on the other end, but a lot of times you just ask, and then people say yes. It's really interesting.
You know what? Maybe that's a nice segue to all the papers I have in front of me. Unless you
no, I want to ask you, like, what have your favorite parts been?
I'm sorry, we're out of time. Yeah. So no, go ahead. You ask me what.
Well, I won't ask you how your life has changed. That one was too hard. But how?
What do you mean too hard?
That's too hard.
Was that? All right. Well, you can edit it out then.
No. It was good. I did great with the question. I just want to, for the record.
I not only did you do great, but it was answered with an air of humility. So that's awesome.
That's good. Well, and let's be honest, we benefit from this too, right? It's so much fun to do. It's lovely to create something and be associated with it. I well up with pride when I look at our logo, because our pink logo of those two faces facing each other, it means so much to me that we've kind of been involved in this together for this long.
Can we pause and just talk about the logo?
Yeah.
I love that logo.
It's a great logo.
You know, when I first saw it, I went, okay, because I didn't really think about it that much. But the more I saw it, when I first saw it on a device, like when our first episodes came out, you know, when I saw it on a screen, when I saw it in an email, I was like, okay, whatever. It's a logo. It looks good. But when I first saw it connected to podcasts, you know, on my phone, on my iPod Touch, I fell in love with that logo. That logo is awesome. Tell our listeners the name of the designer of the logo.
Yeah,
please.
And I think he has just gone out on his own right now. I think he might be taking people. So Cale Livingston, that's C-A-L-E, and it's calelivingston.com. And
we'll put that link in the show notes.
Great. He's an unbelievable graphic designer. He walks you right through what you need, and wants to ask you a bunch of good questions. He's got a real marketing mind, and he's just got a real knack for it. So Cale's a long time friend. I've known Cale for like 20 years, I think, more than that, 20 years or so.
I mean, I've got our logo on a shower curtain. I've got it on a bath mat. I think it's a little bit disrespectful that I have it on boxer shorts, but I enjoy the boxer shorts. I got to tell you.
You love swag, man.
I love swag, and I love giving away swag.
Yes, you do.
And we should probably talk about, this may not be released in time, but either in a Time Warp episode, we're going to release some swag at ACT, or you've just received some swag at ACT 2022 at October.
Including, we're giving away USB podcast mic, like $100 mics. We're going to give them away. And
but you got to do stuff. You got to get raffle tickets. You got to show up and participate.
You got to show up to ACT and participate. Yeah, but 5 people are going to win because we really believe in audio quality. And Eric and I are passionate about the best teaching, the best communicating happens through clarity, and a simple microphone, a $50, $100 USB microphone that plugs right into your computer can make all the difference, especially in this Zoom world. It is remarkable how much of a difference it can make.
We really do appreciate audio quality. So it's a really big deal. quality. Sorry.
Yeah.
I'm back.
Thank you for that.
No, you're welcome. What? I'm sorry. You were going to ask me.
Well, I was going to ask you. So, what have been the best parts for you? And what does Lisa think about it?
Okay,
you already told us.
Those are two really different questions.
You already told us what that Lisa. Yeah.
PsychSessions has been a surprising joy in my mid to late career. I never thought it was going to be as fulfilling as it has been. And it is a joy to collaborate with you and with others. I never thought it would be this rewarding. I guess I went into it not knowing what it was really going to be, or how long it was going to last. I mean, when it's always exciting to start something, right?
Yeah.
It's always exciting to launch a new website or have a new initiative. But the sustainability to me is always the challenge, or I've always seen it be the challenge. And so to have it be sustainable 5 years later and to see the momentum, and as we grow more series and as we have more grow into a network and think about it broadly, and as we expand into a new website and just new opportunities, that's been incredibly rewarding. According to Arby's, I'm getting older now. And so as I start to look back on my career, this is going to be one of the major things that I can reflect on that I helped as a co-founder. Mm-hmm. And so it's a really big deal. So I'm just pleased that something that we started has this amount of momentum, and we can, point to this professional development resource.
Yeah. Yeah. And, it's exciting to see other people kind of share the same value of something like the PsychSessions podcast as we have. I think I said that awkwardly, but, there were folks like Sue Franz, who, as president of SDP years ago, gave us a presidential citation.
That's right.
For PsychSessions, which is sort of funny because she really put us together in the first place. You can listen to our origin story. I think episode 1 we maybe tell that story, but also really advocated for us to go see Brewer and McKeechee, and Jane Hallinan was there too, advocating for that because of the oral history piece. And that has produced it. Without that, I don't know that these things continue to move forward. And then last year, STP doubled down with us and said, hey, we like what you're doing, and we want to sponsor PsychSessions, which took so much pressure off us. We do this for the love of it. We don't get paid for it. And there are expenses that we've incurred, and you have particularly have incurred over the last number of years. And so that just gave us a little more flexibility to say yes to some things that we really wanted to without thinking like, is this sustainable? And now it is. I will admit, maybe for the first and only time, that it's kind of expensive to arrange for a Diet Mountain Dew IV drip. It's one of these really rare types of medical expenses. If it was a saline drip, I mean, that's pretty standard practice. But the Diet Mountain Dew IV drip is a special order item. When you got to have it 24/7. I'm glad we could do that. So that's not something your insurance picks up then?
No, that's out of pocket, buddy.
Yeah.
That is out of pocket.
All right. So, Eric, the PsychSessions podcast is it's been a gift to you in your mid to late career.
Absolutely.
And is there anything in particular, and if you don't come up with it, I'll throw you a couple softballs, but are there any particular moments that you've enjoyed recently since maybe last time we sat down and chatted?
Recently?
I don't know, like on the podcast, interviews that you've done. I'll throw one to you. I loved your interview with Wayne Whiten.
Oh, Wayne Whiten for the 150th. Yeah, that's actually I think the longest episode we've ever released at 1 hour and 40 minutes. you know, Wayne is an enigma wrapped in a conundrum. You know, I've known him for 20 years and had a couple of conversations here and there, and I've gone to dinner with him, I think once. Were we at that same dinner together?
I've been to dinner with him once.
Okay,
too.
maybe we were at the same
I've
dinner.
also drank some wine with him.
I've never consumed alcohol with him. I'm not in that circle, but just such an interesting fellow, and I never would have expected to hear imposter phenomenon from him. And, you know, I forget what was the line from him. Boy, if he applied to graduate school the first time and didn't get in and thought, well, if I don't get into grad school, I can go back to the steakhouse and cook 31 steaks at the same time because he had the skill set for it.
Yeah, he's really good at cooking steaks.
And this is one of the guys, and I was just reading on the plane coming here today. You know, someone had done a recent analysis of the top 15 introductory psychology books in the U.S. And that's a hard thing to figure out, even the top 15. He's in the top 15. I think he's probably in the top 5. So this is a guy who wasn't sure about himself, even getting into graduate school. Now, 50 years later, he's got a book, and that book is still in the top 5 of English-speaking introductory psychology books in the world. And that's pretty phenomenal. Mm-hmm. So, you know, it's great to have access to people like that on the podcast who are so generous with their time with us. You know, Dave Myers has been on the podcast a couple of times. Susan Nolan White. I mean, we've talked to so many intro psych textbook authors over time. Mm-hmm. A bunch of
I haven't actually told you this, but it's that particular episode, hearing you two veterans talk about teaching of psychology is just so much fun. It's interesting that if I was to interview, we talked about it, who's going to interview Wayne for it. We could have done it together.
Yeah.
And I said, you ought to interview him. And part of it is because you have all of this institutional history that I don't. 15 years, I just don't have as much of it. And so you can go back and talk about old conferences and old textbook titles. And anyway, it's just so much fun to hear you both remember the same things and come up in maybe not quite the same generation, but I don't know, maybe you guys are very close.
I'm an interesting bridge because I feel like I am one of the bridges to the old guard and somewhat to the new guard. I'm probably not the bridge to the newest guard, like the current grad students and the current, I know some of the early career psychologists, but I feel like I go back to McKeechee and Brewer. Mm-hmm. You know, I knew those guys when they were teaching, not just when we interviewed them. And I know many of the new up and comers, not a lot of them, but many of them. So, you know, I joined STP when I was in grad school in 1988. So I've got, you know, do the math on that. This is why Arby's is giving me discounts, right? I've been around.
I can do the math on it because it's just I take my birth year and then I just add a few, and then we're there.
I walked right into that, man. I walked right into it. Yep, sure did.
Yeah. So I'm good at math that way.
Are you now?
Yeah.
All
yeah.
right.
Well, anyway, I love that episode, folks. If you haven't had a chance to listen to that one, it is, I'll just say it. It's two of the greats in our field talking about teaching of psychology, and it was fun. It was fun. Okay. Let's get to the data.
Let's get to the stats, and then we have a special guest to bring on.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Good.
All right. So, I'm going to put on my special Arby's readers.
Those are your Santa Claus readers.
Yeah,
you look immediately like Santa Claus.
I think I could do the Santa Claus. I'm telling you.
You know what? Ange will be home in a few minutes, and you could maybe drop out of the chimney or something.
I can do the ho ho ho. So I thought I would share a couple things with you.
Yeah.
Let me give you the top 5 episodes of all time.
Okay.
The top 5 episodes of all time were all.
Do you want me to guess?
Oh, this is even better. Sure.
I think our episode number 1 has got to be on there.
Nope.
All right. So go ahead and share the top 5 episodes of all time, would you?
All 5 of the episodes were recorded by Garth Neufeld. So we know where the talent is in the room. So let's make that clear. The top 2 episodes are actually with Albert Bandura. We recorded in March of 2020. You recorded his episode 87, Albert Bandura, Learning by Modeling.
Yes.
It was released in March.
I was confused by what you said, but there was a re-release, wasn't there?
There was a re-release. Episode 124, after he passed away, we re-released his episode in September of 2021. The Stephen Brookfield episode, which you mentioned, episode 97. A Stephen Chu episode 35.
Wow.
And the twice recorded episode 8 with Elizabeth Yost Hammer rounds out the top 5.
You've got to be kidding
I'm not kidding.
Oh, wow. That's so great.
The data do not lie.
How fun is that?
That is fun.
Okay. So those are that's good company. That 5.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Liz should be very pleased.
Oh, my goodness. Yeah.
Here's a bit of trivia.
By the way, Liz has a podcast, right? I think she's still doing
the Teaching
podcast.
and Learning, right?
The Teaching and Learning podcast.
It's out of her Teaching and Learning Center.
That's right.
On that topic.
Yeah. Yeah.
I thought I would share with you the out of all the episodes we've recorded, the one that has the longest title.
I love it.
I should tell you that I write the titles.
Yeah.
So Garth has nothing to do with the titles.
Oh my gosh. If you ever retire, the titles are going to be episode 312, Eric Landrum. So that's it.
So here is the longest title out of all the episodes we've released.
Wait. How did you figure this out, first of all?
They're in an Excel spreadsheet, and I just expanded the title field until I saw the longest one.
Okay.
No, trust me, I didn't count characters.
Okay.
All right. I do have a life as little as
I do love your titles. And I think your titles are a great gift to our interviewees, by the way. And so I think that's generous that you take so much time to do that. And you have a great vocabulary. So anyway, go ahead.
Here it is. Teaching Matters, Season 3, Episode 4, with special guest Casey Swanson. The connections between high school psychology teachers and the rest of the psychology world, and partnerships, grants, psychi, professional development opportunities.
Yes. Okay. That's the longest one.
All right. I don't know how much more you want, but I haven't actually.
I'm enjoying myself.
I actually have broken it down by the series that we have in the network. Do you want them all? Do you want to ask?
You've broken them down by series and how many listens? Is that
how many episodes and then how many downloads? So like Ask PsychSessions at Work, Beyond Teaching, Hero or Disruptor.
Can we just some of the highlights of how many episodes do we have in some of the so we know that the flagship PsychSessions has 155 episodes?
Well, here's the thing. It doesn't. We did something funky. Oh. We actually, in episode 68, we did something called Intro PsychSessions. And we called it All 68. And we had 9 episodes there, and we called them All 68. Mm-hmm. So actually, the flagship, the OG, the land grant, if you will, the pink label, actually has, even though we've just released episode 155 as we record this, has actually had 170 episodes, even though we're on 155.
Congratulations, bud. That's remarkable.
So I'm tired. I'm just beat.
Yeah.
I think we need to bring in someone to help us out.
Yeah, I think it's time. In fact, let's just talk about that need. Eric, when did we kind of figure out that we might need help?
About 4 years ago.
I guess that's when it started. Hey?
Maybe so. We actually, what did we do? We applied for a grant from APS, and then we went seeking money in many places, and we had generous sponsors, and we've been very fortunate.
Yeah. But I think it's the workload. Maybe it was a year and a half ago, maybe 2 years ago. I lose track with pandemic, but where we created a document called Stuff We Don't Want to Do.
That's right.
And then you had a column and I had a column of things we were doing for the podcast that either weren't comfortably in our wheelhouse or, just they weren't passion projects or they weren't. Yeah.
And we have aspirations. Like we played with the notion of having transcriptions.
Yeah.
And, so that we could create teaching resources, but neither one of us had the bandwidth for that. And we thought about, let's have faculty volunteers. And we dabbled with that for a little bit.
Yeah.
And there's a lot that we want to do. There's a lot we want to expand. And we only have so much volunteer bandwidth.
Yeah.
And so if we found a pocket of money and then we found a talented individual to pay that money to, it would be kind of a part-time job-ish type of thing. And we could increase what we can provide to teachers of psychology, increase the reach of the podcast.
Yep. And before we get to this next part, let me just say to everybody listening, the PsychSessions network, which is, I think, all the series together and the growth in the future, whatever that looks like, this is not an exclusive club. In fact, we are actively out here trying to get people who are passionate about certain topics to consider whether they would want to host a series. We're absolutely open to that.
Be a guest
on the series or on the flagship podcast or wherever folks fit in. And we're always open to new series. So we realize that there is still a blank canvas in front of us.
We're 5-year-olds.
Yeah.
We have developmental room to grow.
Yeah. And especially now. Corbett Stubbert, a good friend of mine from Seattle. He's become a good friend of the podcast. And Corb, welcome to PsychSessions.
Yeah, thank you. It's good to be here.
We needed somebody with I feel like Liam Neeson, a very particular skill set. And I think one of the biggest things is just your ability to solve problems and get things done. I would say that you're kind of a master administrator, and it's just really nice to have somebody who's passionate about systems and making things more efficient. It's exactly what we needed. My cat has cozied up to Eric right now, which has joined
hilarious. The podcast.
How do you feel about cat? Well, we won't.
This one's fine.
Yeah, this one is good.
Oh, I don't live with it.
Rosie, come here.
It's fine.
Anyway, all of my compliments just got disrupted by this cat. So why don't you take over?
So Corb, why don't you tell our folks a little bit about your organizational skills and especially coming into the podcast, how do you think you're going to be able to help us out?
Yeah, I know that when Garth originally asked me, you guys were just up against it. You have all these podcasts. You needed a way to organize it. I think Garth and I were sharing a bottle of wine, and he waited till the end of the bottle before he said, hey, I got all these things I don't want to do, and I think you're the guy for it. And I like the color pink. And so I just said, yes, I'm going to join this thing. And we've just gone from there. It's been great. I mean, I really enjoy, like he said, I enjoy organizing things. I like things kind of being in a certain order, and to be able to take the podcast and put them in the series for you guys and start working on the website and, newsletters and just different things that you guys, didn't have the time to do. I'm just happy to come on board and help you out.
I've what Garth has mentioned, I've actually seen in the short time that I've gotten to know you that it strikes me that you're a systems thinker. You like to think big picture. You like to think about how can we do this process better, not this one task better, but how this is linked to that and how this can be connected to that. And I appreciate someone when you're in the middle of the grind and you're getting out an episode every 2 weeks and, okay, I got to record the intro and he's got to stitch together this. We don't normally have someone thinking about the big picture. I appreciate someone who's kind of now got the big picture interests at heart. We do too, but we just don't, there's too many metaphors here, but when you're flying the plane while you're building it, we need someone here at Boeing to, really make sure that the wrapper's off and it's ready to go.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. I'm not as much of a starter. And, you guys started this thing, you got it going, you got it all figured out. I'm more of a guy to come in and then try to make it better, try to keep things organized, move it forward. Are there any other exciting ideas? Are there, ways that we can have other sponsors? I like all that part. That's what feeds me. And so to be able to come where you guys are already 5 years in, it's successful, you're doing well, you got a lot of downloads, to be able to come and try to assist you in making that even better, that just gets me excited. So
I got to tell you, there's one immediate downfall that I'm kind of perturbed about. He's got a better voice than both of us.
Yeah. I know.
I mean, that deep, rich voice.
I'm just going to turn him down.
Can you adjust this in post?
I'm going to put a weird filter on his voice.
Yeah, sound like Alvin and the Chipmunks.
Can you give him like a Porky Pig? I mean, can you give him something like that and a filter?
Yes, that's why I've been training all these years.
It's torquing me off. He's got this better voice.
Did you say you're twerking?
Torquing.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Twerking is after I have a bottle of wine.
Yeah. Corb, we've been friends for a long time, so you know that, before you were part of this for the last few months, you've kind of heard me talking about psych sessions kind of in the years leading up. Was there anything surprising once you actually... Because I think one of the things I said to you when we started, I said, well, you should probably start by listening to some episodes or something like that. What did you think about this? Because we should say, Corbett is not in the teaching of psychology world. Corbett is a man of many skills and talents, including, I think you've helped me basically in all my houses do some construction or anyway. So you have all this skill set, diverse skill set. But what did you think kind of prior to coming on board? Like, what was this thing to you? Because I'd talked about it some, I guess. And then once you came on board, how did that change?
Yeah, I do not have, a psychology degree. It didn't come from that background. I actually took Psych 101 when I was in college and loved it. My wife's a psych major, actually, but and so I always thought, we have talked for years about what you do and in your teaching and the different classes and how you're running that and how you're always trying to make it better and improve on that. And then we actually listened to a couple of your interviews on the way back from like fishing one time. We listened to some and I'm like, oh, this is really cool. Like this, it's different than what I thought. I thought it was going to be really academic, but with all these different stories that people are saying, they've lived these amazing lives and they've, written books and they're trying to teach their classes. And I just thought their stories were incredible. So I've actually listened to quite a few of them and have found them to be super interesting. And even though I'm not a teacher, I don't have this background, but I think this podcast is for anybody. I think it's interesting.
You know what I'm going to give myself crap for a second. That's like the equivalent. Thank you. I'll beat you.
I was going to give you crap first.
No,
okay.
I will jump in on it. It's the equivalent of being like a teenager in a band and being like, can you listen? Do you want to listen to my mixtape on our way home from fishing together? And
did he only listen to episodes where you were the interviewer?
Oh yeah, I didn't even know you existed. No, I'm just joking. We actually did listen to a couple that you did as well.
So
yeah.
I
think you said once that you liked his voice.
Yes.
Yeah.
We listened to one, and I like your voice, like the way that you're interviewing.
No, I've got the face for radio. That's the line. Yeah. No, I wanted to ask. Before you got involved with the podcast and you used to talk to Garth about the podcast, what did he say about his podcast partner? That's the stuff I want to know.
Goodness. Yeah. He's so complicated.
Funny. Yeah.
Eric's complicated.
That's the most honest thing I think you've ever said, if that's what you actually said.
Oh, I probably did.
I don't know.
Nothing but love, man.
Yeah. Generous always gets brought up. One of the most generous people.
All right. We'll edit that out.
No, it's true.
It's
and
true.
now that I've hung around you more, I know it to be true. I love it.
Whatever.
It is.
It's an edit point.
You can edit that.
No. Well, Corb, you've got your fingerprints all over what we're doing right now.
In a good way.
In a good way. Yeah. So you basically built our website, PsychSessions.org, which we are launching this month. Publicly.
It's launched.
It's launched.
Right.
So we'll start advertising.
What was that URL again?
PsychSessions.org.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. And we've revised with your help the newsletter. Years ago, Eric started kind of putting the call out once a year or something like that. If you'd like to be part of the Psych Sessions, opt-in newsletter or mailing, I don't know what you called it.
It used to be an announcement that went out the Monday night before the Tuesday drop of episodes. It wasn't really a newsletter.
Okay.
It was more of a very long email missive that almost no one read.
You don't know that.
And when they went away, I heard from one person who said, I really miss those.
Who was it?
I'm not going to say.
You'll tell me later.
I'll tell you when we turn it on.
Yeah. Well, those were, again, talk about generous. I believe you knew that people weren't reading them, and I believe you wrote those for the interviewee who we interviewed because just to honor those folks.
Sure.
I think that's why you did it. And so, of course, that's a testimony. I mean, I don't hear anybody saying really nice things about me today on this hour together, but I guess we can just keep talking about Eric.
You didn't hear me say how working with you has been a gift and the collaboration. Seriously?
Yeah, I'm looking from Corb for more compliments from Corbett, actually.
Oh,
so you want me to tell everybody how good of a fisherman and what a great golfer you are. I mean, Eric talked for a long time about how young you still are. I'm seeing this picture behind you.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. No, I do appreciate that. I do appreciate it. Yeah. So you've been doing. I mean, we're going to launch this newsletter right away, which I think is. You helped us kind of with a best practice of like, what does this look like in marketing these days where people will actually find this information useful, where you're not overwhelming people, you're actually helping them. And so you helped us kind of throw that together. It actually wasn't thrown together at all. It was a very systematic process, but that's going to be coming out. And we're thinking about other projects coming up that will be equally as successful, I believe. So you are bringing us into the kind of phase 2, I feel like, of Psych Sessions.
We're ready to start elementary school. We've been at home from birth to 5, and now we're ready to go to school and really start to grow and advance as we should developmentally. We can't do it on our own. We need teachers. Yeah. We need help. Yeah. And Corb's the guy to take us there.
Yeah, well, thanks. Yeah, I'm happy to be with you guys. This is going to be really great.
Well, we're really setting a foundation, and what the other thing your presence does is it allows us to bring in other people and help them to be successful. So, new hosts, new series, new whatever we haven't even thought of yet, but it's going to be under Psych Sessions, promoting our friends who are doing blogs and YouTube channels and have all these other non-traditional expertise that they contribute to the teaching of psychology community. There's lots of stuff that we just couldn't even go there yet because we were tasked with the day in, day out of getting these podcast episodes out. So thank you, Corb. It's really nice to have you here.
Yeah, thanks.
What else do you want to talk about, Eric?
In case you missed it, a new feature. I appreciate you, my friend.
Oh.
Thank you for doing this for 5 years.
Oh, yeah. I did hear you before, by the way. So you sometimes talk because you're mid to late career. You're in that area.
Closer to late these days.
You sometimes talk about succession planning for Psych Sessions.
Oh, yeah.
Well, and years ago, you did have a health scare, so that was something. And I got to tell you, I'm not looking forward to that. Because I know that what happens is, in my Garth brain, you want to try to replace someone, and you can't. You can't. Like, how do you replace that skill set, that uniqueness, that generosity? How do you do that? And I just can't even imagine it at this point. Now, as we get other people, we start thinking about that more seriously in the next few years. I hope it's years. Maybe it won't be such like a mind bender, but at this point, I think what I'm trying to articulate is you and I have brought very, very different passions and skill sets, but also just a work ethic and a love for this thing. And, gosh, it is going to be really hard. I feel like it's going to be really hard to find somebody who is the fit, but we'll find them. We'll find them eventually.
You will.
Yeah.
You will.
Okay. Well, this is 5 years.
It's the cat dander. I'm telling you. It's the cat dander.
It's getting you right now.
The cat has attacked Eric with its dander, and his eyes may
It's
be
the
wet.
cat dander.
So here's to we'll say a year at a time. Here's to another one.
A year at a time. Wow, I didn't know it was terminal. But all right.
I think you owe me a $300 shot of tequila.
Oh,
Is that right?
I was thinking about that same thing.
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah, as long as I got a credit card for it, you're on.
Thank you, Eric, and thanks Corbett for joining the team. This is special.
It's been awesome.
5 years. Thanks everybody for listening. We hope that you have enjoyed this ride, and we look forward to continuing to present Psych Sessions as a great free professional development resource for years to come.